Alright, so in this summary, we are going to cover chapters 1 through 3 to really get to the point of each chapter and how that's significant to our discussion about artificial intelligence and the impact AI has on our daily lives and how it can be used ultimately for good.
So chapter 1 is really centered around how humans have not been able to show over time the ability to make decisions without the clouding of emotion or judgment or prejudice or stubbornness. And this is shown to end badly for the human race, such as events as 9/11, when the World Trade Center was ran into by hijacked commercial airlines, despite the warning signs that President George W. Bush received from the U.S. intelligence agency, with reports like bin Laden determined to strike inside the U.S. that were given months ahead of time, yet he chose to ignore them. Chapter 1 also uses past companies that failed to adjust accordingly to the changes that were being implemented through technology to better serve consumers. And some of these companies include Kodak, Blockbuster Video, Marshall Field, Pullman Company, all who were absorbed by competitors because they gave into the common compulsion to resist and respond to change with skepticism or hostility and stubbornness, and were therefore absorbed by their competitors and the companies that did adjust accordingly, ultimately benefiting the consumers and the business.
So moving on to chapter 2, how did we get here? How did we get to this point where we have this technology we call artificial intelligence that affects our life on a daily basis, such as companies like Amazon, Netflix, and Uber that are using AI algorithms to suggest products we might be interested in, to predict our behavior, so it can provide value for us when different desires we have arise, and it can meet those needs. In order to address how we got here, we're going to follow a timeline and follow the development of artificial intelligence, which began in the 1950s, where the term artificial intelligence was initially used by John McCarthy, who was an assistant professor of mathematics at Dartmouth College. During an 8-week-long symposium that was put together where 20 of the nation's leading computer and behavioral scientists brought their minds together, and the impact of this conference initiated and accelerated the development of artificial intelligence. So after the initial use of the term artificial intelligence, the U.S. Department of Defense created the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency that directed and funded scientific research projects at universities such as MIT, Stanford, and Caltech to continue research on artificial intelligence and its application. Initially, AI was used in what we call expert system software, which just requires large amounts of data and an inference engine, which allowed for decisions and forecasts to be made based on large amounts of knowledge and data. In the 1980s, the AI uses were pretty basic and used to approve mortgage loan applications and diagnose certain diseases based on different criteria, and was able to design things such as a toxic spill response plan. The only limiting factor was the retrieval and the reliability of the knowledge being inputted. In the 1990s, AI had one of its biggest moments when the AI machine that IBM called Deep Blue won a rematch against the Russian chess champion Garry Kasparov. And in 2011, IBM created another machine called Watson that competed against Jeopardy winners and won a $1 million prize. And at this point, artificial intelligence was able to interpret and comprehend human language and adjust accordingly and ultimately to win the game. And in 2016, this was the biggest breakthrough AI had, as the newest machine, AlphaGo, was able to beat the human Go player. which is a game that has exponentially more possible moves than chess, and it requires creativity and abstract thinking. And AlphaGo was the first time a machine showed its ability to teach itself and to test and evaluate strategies. It took chances and it actually learned from its mistakes. Lastly, moving on to chapter 3, which is called The Machine Learns. And this chapter addresses the 3 ways in which humans primarily learn, which is through instinct, instruction, and experience, which applies to the way in which machines learn as well. However, IBM engineers built into AlphaGo an artificial network that allowed for what they call deep learning, which is based on what data represents rather than task-specific algorithms, and is actually inspired by the design of the human nervous system. And the chapter highlights, and the note that we're going to end on for this summary, is that for a computer to be truly intelligent, there are 4 criteria, which is to be able to learn from experience, to recognize what it did not know, to search for sources of additional knowledge, to fill in that gap of what it didn't know, and when necessary, ask for help. A few lessons that I actually thought make a human intelligent too, and I took note of as I move forward into my daily life. All right, thanks for listening. And next up, we'll be discussing chapters 4 through 6.